I remember we were in the theater room, and in front of all the boys, one boy came from behind and pulled my pants down, and I couldn't do anything. We rushed to different doctors, which is a very wrong thing to happen to a child because the teacher should be the support for the kids. Once, a doctor was checking my genitals and said everything was normal. And often people get angry. When I finally reached the breaking point while telling this story, I sat down and told my mom that there was a problem. My mom asked what it was. When the Zorstock team approached me directly saying they wanted to cover my story, the first question they asked me was if my hobbies were a bit like those of girls. Often such people are called sweet sixer and are pushed aside. We make fun of them once, but we forget that the whole batch, the whole office, or the whole school makes fun of them 11 times, and they never respond. Often they stand at the edge with their heads down or just walk away. We never really understand what they want to say. And I will tell you about their response, what they want to say. This story is not very old, at least 10 to 15 years. And at that time, my name used to be Dev, and I was the boy everyone made fun of. At home, I used to get scolded because my hobbies were a bit different, and I have been quite talented since childhood. I liked doing many things, whether it was sports, theater, music, or dancing. But gradually, every one of my hobbies was mocked so much that I gave up on them. When I used to go to the sports field, the boys would make fun of me, and not him, even the sports teacher used to make fun of me. So imagine a kid who is being bullied by students and thinking that something wrong is happening to him. I should have asked the teacher for help, but the teacher herself was making fun of him. That loneliness I felt at that time, when the grades came in, I felt it again. I gave up on sports. I remember dance class used to be my favorite. We had one teacher, Shankari Madam, who was one of my favorite teachers and took great care of me. She was very loving towards me. I loved dancing in her class in November, but even in that, my hobby preferences were a bit like girls, and on stage there would be applause, but after getting off the stage, the taunts from the boys in the class were unbearable. I couldn't take it. I gave up dancing too. At home, the way I liked to live wasn't very popular with people either. I preferred hanging out with my sisters, and in childhood, everything was fine. If a small child is doing slightly different things, it is often dismissed as childishness. But there comes an age when the differences between boys and girls start to become noticeable, and others expect you to act like a boy, walk with a bit more confidence, add some depth to your voice, and don't give up on all these hobbies. It was very difficult for me. When I was being told to do something that I didn't like at all, I never understood why I was being made to do this because the feeling inside me never made me feel like a man or a boy. Since childhood, I have always seen myself as a girl or a woman. And then when there was pressure from outsiders for me to live a different life, it became very difficult for me. I remember the age of 14, 13, 14 years old when kids often so start puberty and your body goes through various changes. That time, it was very difficult for me, as it is for many transgender people, because my body started to develop in a way that didn't feel natural or right to me. I thought I would grow up to be a big girl, and now that I am growing a beard, you can imagine how strange that thought process must be for me. I must have been so confused at that time and felt so bad about myself during this time. I thought so little of myself that I completely stopped socializing with people. I fell behind in all my talents, studies, and everything at school. I went into my own corner. In the beginning, up until second or third grade, I used to have a lot of friends, and I talked to everyone, both girls and boys. And then, suddenly, in fourth and fifth grade, all the boys started staying away from me. When the boys went to the fields to play, I preferred staying in the class and making sketches. And there were some differences between us that we didn't enjoy each other's company. Around sixth or seventh grade, I heard many new words. When people started calling me Sweet Six and Sixer, I noticed that the boys had created a strange distance. Even the boys, who used to be my very good friends, suddenly started caring about their image. My friend didn't want to be seen with me because people would think and say the same things about them that they said about me. people distancing themselves was still manageable because I could handle it in some way or another. I would study a bit more or engage in some co-curricular activity so that I wouldn't feel the need for friends. But when people started not only distancing themselves, but also harassing me, my life became quite difficult. Remember when I used to go to school, I used to go to the boys' washroom at that time because I was a boy then, and boys would push me around and say strange things to me. It felt very weird, and I was too embarrassed to speak up. Because there's a shame in it, that you are a boy yourself. How could this happen to you? Don't tell anyone. So in that shame, I couldn't tell anyone. Remember, we were doing theater practices during my school's annual function. I used to act. I always got the main role in plays. I was very passionate about acting. And remember, we were in the theater room. In front of all the boys, one boy came from behind and pulled my pants down, and I couldn't do anything. For the first 5 seconds, I didn't even move from my place. I was frozen in place. I couldn't understand what had happened to me. This is my reaction to many things. I just can't comprehend how it happened or why it happened. And until I understand, I feel like it must be my fault. Maybe I walk with a bit too much sway, or I am too proud. That's why everyone laughs. That's why everyone teases. So when such strange things happened, I didn't say anything. I didn't think about it, and I didn't show it to anyone. I would go home and cry. The next day, I would come to school and endure it all over again. Remember, my sports teacher used to make so much fun of me. During the sports period, he would say, "Don't play like this, don't play like that." And I tried my best. No matter how many assignments or exercises they gave us, I completed them all. Even after that, one day after finishing my exercises and heading to play, they forcibly called me over and made me do exercises with the girls, which was a problem for me. All my friends were there, but their way of speaking and their intention was to put me down. And remember how much the boys in the class made fun of me after that, how much they laughed. I was accused of exercising with the girls, and this is a very wrong thing to happen to a child, because teachers should support the kids. When a child faces a problem, they will go to the teacher. Now, when the teachers themselves are ready to become the problem, where could I go? I tried to stay silent for a long time, hoping that with time everything would get better, but there came a point when every aspect of my life couldn't survive. I had no talent left, no hobbies left, and no friends left. When I finally reached the breaking point, I sat down and told my mom that there was a problem. My mom asked what it was. I couldn't speak. So I told my mom that I don't like girls. Then my mom actually said, "Dev, son, are you saying you're gay?" I got scared and thought I should just say yes to this, because if I told the whole truth, she might have a heart attack. So I said yes. And my mom reassured me a little, saying, it's okay. A lot of people have this problem these days, and we will fix it very well." Then my family tried to fix it. We rushed to doctors everywhere, to physicians, who, for some reason, were acting as psychologists. I remember there was a family doctor, a physician, but he was sitting with me and counseling me, saying that, "Son, your mom and dad feel very bad. Your mom and dad don't want to see you like this." And I was wondering why this doctor was saying this to me. From all the studies I knew and all the resources I had seen, this thing wasn't wrong at all. I remember many times doctors would do my physical examination for no reason at all. I remember one time a doctor was checking the weight of my genitals, and everything was normal. Often people get angry. When I tell this story, they think I want to defame doctors or this profession. But the problem is not that the doctor was conducting tests. The problem is that the doctor was conducting tests that were not needed. And it's not their fault, it's the fault of the medical tax. We have been erased by the medical tax. Then there was a doctor who told us that this is actually not a physical illness. You should go to a psychologist for counseling and work on it together as a family. Then I went to a psychologist. We had several sessions. And slowly, as I shared things with them, we realized that it was not just about sexuality, but also about gender. Because when I said that since childhood I have felt like a girl, and I feel new in my own body, I think there is something else here, and there is something else here. So Finally, a doctor named that mismatch as gender dysphoria. And often people think that when they get a diagnosis, their heart will break and they will feel bad. But for me, getting my diagnosis was a huge relief because finally I felt that what was happening to me had a name. It was a recorded, registered, normal thing. I am not crazy. I am not different from the world. It's just that the world is not being told about us. After this diagnosis, it obviously had a very bad impact on my parents because I was their only and first son. So everyone has very big dreams. I feel like whenever a person starts anything in life, we dream a lot about it. And they also had many dreams about me, which, if not broken, had at least changed. It took them a lot of time to accept and understand this. And I am very lucky that my parents did not throw me out of the house or ever did anything wrong or unfair to me. My parents have always wanted the best for me. They were just afraid of the world, worried that something bad might happen to me. And that's why it took them time to accept it, because their generation was different. In their generation, there was neither a place for such things, nor were such things talked about. So they couldn't understand that a big person can live a good life even being transgender. They made many attempts to fix me. My dad had a master plan that maybe if he secretly sent me to my aunt's house without telling me, where my brother's trainer would make me exercise, then maybe by doing 23 push-ups, I would become a man. But obviously, that didn't work. And, with several small thoughts attempts and many setbacks, things kept moving. In the end, the plan, it was made to send me to Australia because my aunt is in Australia and things are better there. Life would be easier there. And everything was going on like that. I was also waiting a lot. When will school end? When will I go to Australia? When will my new life begin? Then, as soon as school ended, the lockdown came. During the lockdown, all our finances tanked, no money in the bank, Australia, completely off the plan. And then I started my transition at home during the lockdown. This is a very important detail because you have to understand that I entered the house as a bullied, invisible, loser boy. And after the transition, I came out as a very conventionally attractive girl. So the way people looked at me, the way people behaved towards me changed instantly. And here comes a very important term called decoses, self-esteem. You have to understand that a person who has been used to taunts, mockery, and bullying since childhood, now everyone is staring at him, praising him. But in my mind, I have accepted all the things people called me. I have accepted myself as ugly, sweet, a sissy, a joke, a girl. And now, when people are treating me like I'm something really great, I can't even accept it myself. And this is the worst thing about low self-esteem. Why do such people stop considering themselves deserving of good things? I remember when I started my work online a bit, when I created an Instagram page for modeling and makeup artistry, because I wanted to do something. I didn't want to sit at home. At that time, my work used to be quite good, and I never took any training. Most artists naturally have a talent. In the beginning, I used to get big offers from many places, and I would turn them down because I used to think, no, they don't even know how ugly I really am. They don't even know what a big joke I am. And I would refuse the work for a long time. I was the biggest obstacle in my own path because I had accepted here that I don't deserve good things. Before moving forward in the story, I want to ask all of you one question. What do you think about the LGBT community? When you see their ways, their behavior, what comes to mind is that they have a strange style, their hobbies, their choices. And an important point people mention is that this is a foreign trend. Western culture, which has ruined our culture, people like that. I want to ask if you have ever looked at your culture, ever opened your history. Look, our history, religion, and medical texts all mention us, whether it's homosexuality, transgender people, or non-binary people. Our existence is not just from today, it dates back to the time of the Mahabharata, whether it's Shikhandi from the Mahabharata, Vishnu's Mohini form, or Ardhanarishvara. Discussions about people like us have always been present in our history. It was during the time of colonization when the British came, bringing their sense of morality, their ideas of right and wrong. They taught us to hate, divided us, and left. Meanwhile, in their own constitution, they have given a place to LGBT people for a long time. But one thing to learn from this is that hate is always taught, whether it's towards the Indian LGBT community or kids like me in school. No child thinks of bullying someone on their own. They either hear it from TV, from the adults around them, or from their other friends. Because hate is taught, hate is not natural. When I understood this, I stopped hating myself too. I understood that if people are looking at me differently or calling me names or using strange names for me, it's not my fault. They are calling me what they have learned. Seeing me the way they think is right. And letting their way of thinking, their perceptions, dominate me was a big mistake on my part. And then I tried to correct that mistake. And the day I put people's taunts aside and truly recognized my talent and my worth, my life changed from that day on. I started doing all those hobbies, again, that I had given up at one time out of fear or shame. I started doing makeup, or I started dancing. I wore the clothes I liked. And today I am building a career in all those fields. As a successful model, a girl who was afraid of sports, exercise, and fitness, now, very soon at the age of 18, I am going to become a judge for a fitness competition. I became the first face of transgender experience for Verma, India's largest intimate wear brand. Very soon, Miss Transqueen India, which is India's biggest pageant for transgender women, will take place. I am going to represent Delhi in it. Today, I am one of the youngest contestants in the pageant's history. Every single thing that I used to hesitate or be afraid to do before, today I have made a name for myself in every film. And it's only because the confidence that awakened in me was so strong that I never looked back. When the Zorstock team actually approached me saying they wanted to cover my story, the first question they asked me was, which war story I liked the most out of all their stories, and why? So I answered them that I really liked the story of Lakshmi Narayan Tripathi ji, because their story is one that I can relate to a lot. Because, like them, I have also lived quite a suppressed and hidden life. And then I recognized the woman inside me and wanted to, refine myself. And I still remember how lovely her quote is that she always says everywhere, good girls go to heaven, but bad girls go everywhere. And that quote changed my life. And seeing my inspiration there at that time, and now just a few years later, standing on the same stage and giving my talk is such a big deal for me. And I think maybe if this call had come a year earlier, that shy girl would have declined this option. But thanks to talks like this, which gave me confidence, I learned about people like me. I am a completely different person now. Many times people want to silence me when I want to highlight the struggles of trans people or the LGBT community. They say there are so many government policies in your favor. You can get jobs everywhere. You can work, study, write. You are begging yourself. That's why nothing is happening for your community. So I want to tell such people that when I went to change my Aadhaar details from male to female and change my name, my parents sat with me and went through the entire Aadhaar website, and we learned the whole procedure and went to the Aadhaar office. And the sir sitting there looked at me and said that this doesn't happen. Then I said, it does happen. He said, no, it doesn't happen. If you check your website, it's a very common process. You can do it. He said, no, it doesn't happen. Then we went back and forth a bit. It happens, it doesn't happen, it happens, it doesn't happen. Then sir finally said, yes, it does happen, but I won't do it because it will raise questions about me. Many times I go to colleges to give speeches as a judge, but I have never been able to go to college as a student because changing my 10th and 12th certificates is such a complicated process. From school to the CBSE office and then back, some obstacle always comes up in between. I am capable, worthy, and educated for a career, but I am not able to achieve those goals in one way because my path has been made so difficult. And that's why it's important to talk about these things. Because I am not alone. There are many girls like me with so much talent, capability, and beauty, but their fate is written to stay at red lights. Their fate is written to stay in brothels. I was lucky that my parents were with me, and I was able to do what I am doing. And we should never forget that we don't need your sympathy. We need your support, because at the end of the day, LGBT people are also human beings, and they have the same capabilities as you do. Just listen to the opportunity.